The Lives of the Saints by the Reverend Alban Butler, taken from the 4th edition, published in 1954. March 6th. St. Chrodegang, Bishop of Mentz. This saint, nobly born in Brabant, then called Haspain, was educated in the abbey of St. Tron, and for his great learning and virtue was made referendary, Chancellor of France, and Prime Minister of Charles Martel, Mayor of the French Palace in 737. He was always meanly clad from his youth. He massacrated his body by fasting, watching, and haircloths, and allowed his senses no superfluous gratifications of any kind. His charity to all in distress seemed to know no bounds. He supported an incredible number of poor, and was the protector and father of orphans and widows. Soon after the death of Charles Martel, he was chosen Bishop of Metz in 742. Prince Pepin, the son and successor of Charles, uncle to our saint by his mother, Landrada, would not consent to his being ordained, but on the condition that he should still continue at the helm of the state. Chrodegang always retained the same sweetness, humility, recollection, and simplicity in his behavior and dress. He constantly wore a rough hair shirt under his clothes, spent good part of the night in watching, and usually at his devotions watered his cheeks with tears. Pope Stephen III, being oppressed by the Lombards, took refuge in France. Chrodegang went to conduct him over the Alps, and King Pepin was no sooner informed that he had passed these mountains on his way to France, but he sent Charles, his eldest son, to accompany him to Pontyon in Champagne, where the king was to receive him. The Pope being 3 miles distant from that city, the king came to meet him, and having joined him, alighted from his horse, and prostrated himself, as did the queen, his children, and the lords of his court. And the king walked some time by the side of the horse to do him honor. The Pope retired to the monastery of St. Denis, and King Pepin, in the year 754, sent St. Chrodegang on an embassy to Astolph, king of the Lombards, praying him out of the respect to the holy apostles not to commit any hostilities against Rome, nor to oblige the Romans to superstitions contrary to their laws, and to restore the towns which he had taken from the Holy See. But this embassy was without effect. The saint, in 755, converted the chapter of secular canons of his cathedral into a regular community, in which he was imitated by many other churches. He composed for his regular canons a rule consisting of 34 articles. In the first, he laid down humility for the foundation of all the rest. He obliged the canons to confess at least twice a year to the bishop before the beginning of Advent and Lent. But these churches, even that of Mentz, have again secularized themselves. The saint built and endowed the monasteries of St. Peter, that of Gorzet, and a third in the diocese of Worms, called Lorsch or Lorisham. He died on the 6th of March in 766, and was buried at Gorzet, to which by his will, which is still extant, he demised several estates. He is named in the French, German, and Belgic martyrologies. The zeal of St. Chrodegang in restoring the primitive and apostolic spirit in the clergy, particularly their fervor and devotion in the ministry of the altar, is the best proof of his ardor to advance to divine honor. To pay to Almighty God the public homage of praise and love in the name of the whole Church is a function truly angelical. Those who by the divine appointment are honored with this sublime charge resemble those glorious heavenly spirits who always assist before the throne of God. All Christians have a part in this heavenly function.